Be live. Welcome to the PAMcast for January 16th, 2024. This is the first PAMcast of 2024. We are TechIDManager. I'm 𝗦𝗵𝗿𝗆 with companies Ruffian Software. We will cover this agenda, but first, introduce Emily. She's in the background here. She can say hi.
Hi.
I think you can probably hear her. If not, that's okay. I can hear. So this is kind of a list of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about who I am, why we're here, what Ruffian Software is, why it does. The target audience for this presentation. We'll talk about some of the CMC updates that happened. We'll talk about some new features that TechIDManager brought out since the last PAMcast. And then we'll end with questions and what we're going to talk about next time. This is the PAMcast January 16, 2024. We are targeting existing TechIDManager partners, future possible TechIDManager partners, anyone interested in the product. We assume that you already know what TechIDManager is, what it does, how it works, probably have it installed and using it. If you're watching this and you don't know those things, you should go to techidmanager.com, set up a demo, and we'll show you all that. Top right corner, there's a button that says request demo, do it. For everybody else who already knows what TechIDManager is, you probably know who I am, but I like to say it anyway because I'm a little bit of a narcissist like that. Anyone who gets on camera live and, we like ourselves. So I'm 𝗦𝗵𝗿𝗆, computer engineer, founder and CTO of TechIDManager. The company is Ruffian Software. The product is TechIDManager. We do privileged account management for managed service providers and VARs. It's a very specific niche. We are expanding that to not only do privileged account management, but as some of the features are coming out are going to kind of elicit to, we're also starting into secrets management and privileged access management for MSPs. This is going to really expand what we provide to both existing partners and new partners. So I am sure everybody is aware, if you are in the cyber technology space, cybersecurity space, you have seen that late December, CMMC made some updates. I used to have a client called CMC, and now it's CMMC, so I always get confused. So if I drop that middle M, just excuse me. CMMC made some updates. I have read some of them. I've listened to a lot of talking heads talk about them. I've seen a lot of articles about them. There's a lot of FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt about what they say, what they don't say. Probably 9 out of 10 things that I've seen about the CMC updates are trying to sell you something. And that is not what I want to talk about. I am not here. Like I said, the target of this is existing clients, existing customers, existing partners. So I'm not here to sell you. I'm here to tell you what I think of it. So in what I've looked at and what I've read, there is some scope expansion for what CMMC covers. There is some new definitions for external service provider, cloud service provider, external security provider, a whole bunch of new terms and security protection data. A lot of this is just, as far as it relates to privileged accounts and MSPs, in the area that TechIDManager is concerned about, is an expansion and more coverage with the same things that were expected of the smaller scope, now in scope for the larger scope. A lot of MSPs in the past thought, well, we're out of scope, we don't have to deal with CMMC. That becomes a much more questionable stance to take nowadays. If you have CMMC compliant clients, level 2 or 3, then you as the MSP are specifically called out, and over the course of the next 3 years, there are varying levels of CMMC that you're going to have to adhere to. Vendors have some very specific calls out and requirements too. It really comes down to an understanding that has long been the understanding that as a cybersecurity professional, where data is, where it resides, and how it transits from the places it resides are important things to know and protect. It was generally assumed it was okay to protect data at your client site before. If you did things at the client site to protect the data, you were good. That is kind of expanding now, especially with SaaS, all the cloud integrations that happen, especially some of the shadow IT things where data secretly leaves the network and comes back. Then that is more things you have to protect. Just a quick example, HubSpot has outside integrations that you can do You don't have to be a super admin. Any regular user can integrate these outside tools into HubSpot, and then all of a sudden, all that data is leaving your control and then coming back modified. This is something that you as an MSP has to be aware of. You should really have regular conversations with your clients about things that happen and don't happen, and where the data goes, how it's transited. TechIDManager is pretty specific in that we are a SaaS vendor. We do privileged account stuff, so we handle credentials, all that kind of thing. This is really a lot of what falls under security protection data. We even have some logs that we handle. This is all important stuff that you have to know where it goes and what it does. And if you meet some of those CMMC requirements and you need to be in control of all this data, we have an option for that. TechIDManager has always had, continues to have, and we commit to always have a version of TechIDManager that's fully featured that you can host yourself. That means that you are in complete control of the servers, the data, and all the transmit over the network that goes on. We also use asymmetric encryption, like you're all aware, so that all the data in transit is encrypted. The data that you store, self-hosted, or that we store, you can't read the important protected data. There's some metadata you can see. That's the same everywhere. We do everything we can to protect that. Also, the asymmetric encryption protects all the credentials. So self-hosting is a huge answer to that technical question that CMC poses on what assets does your security protection data or your CUI reside. If the data resides in some asset, the owner of that asset falls under CMMC. That means that the vendor, a SaaS vendor, or you, if you are the MSP, or the client, who owns that asset is important. That's why if you want to meet the CMMC requirements, we offer a self-hosted version. You own the asset, you own the data, you own the software, you're in complete control of it. This is just to step on my little soapbox, my little high horse, and yell out at the world from my ivory tower. You need to know where your data is, how it transits, and where it's stored. This is important. It's something that we cover on every TechIDManager demo. We talk about the agents, the management console, and the tech client, how everything moves around, and why it's protected, and how we try to protect it the best we can. And now we try very hard not to be the point of ingress into any of your systems. So that was real short. That's my take on the CMMC updates. There are tons of talking heads out there talking about it. There are tons of articles. It is the new hotness of thing. I'm not going to repeat any of that. I'll just give you those was my thoughts on it. There are lots of articles that you should go read. If you are CMMC or NIST 800-171, all those things, there are some serious security experts that can help you with that. And if you want a recommendation, contact us, either sales at TechIDManager or support at TechIDManager. We have recommendations for individuals who we've worked with in the past who are very good at this and can help you with the security audits, the updates, the protection, all that kind of things. All right. That's really what it says. And so how does this affect MSPs using TechIDManager? It really doesn't that much, unless you want to transition to being self-hosted. You can transition from the cloud hosting to the self-hosting. This is not difficult. We've done it. We move people between servers at request. We move people between regions. We can move you from the cloud hosting to self-hosting. Contact us, either sales at techidmanager.com or support at techidmanager.com. If this is something that interests you, it is a little more expensive. It does require you to host the servers because you are now in charge of those assets. All right. So that's kind of all I really have to say on CMMC and the updates that they made. They're there, they're serious, and if you want to be compliant, there are tons of resources, and we're here to help. All right. Now, my favorite part, the boring technical stuff, the new features. So over the last month, we have, actually really last month and three-quarter, month and a half, we've released quite a few new features. We didn't discuss these last month in the December PAMcast because we talked more about where we had been in the past and what TechIDManager started as and where it is now and where we kind of intend to see ourselves going. So today, we're going to talk about some of those features that I hope, as the CTO of TechIDManager, will help you doing privileged account management stuff. So the first thing we're going to talk about are trees and leaves. Trees and leaves are great ways to organize things. In the past, TechIDManager had a list of credentials that were managed for each technician. There was a search button, there were search bars you could type in. It really helped find those very quickly. We have added to that a tree structure. So if you look at the tech client here, on the far left, you see here we have this tree. We have Ruffian, we have stuff that is in the Ruffian tree and below. We have stuff in this internal leaf, and we have this external leaf. We have stuff under development. Everything on the Goldfish domain or Goldfish network is under 𝗦𝗵𝗿𝗶𝗂. You can organize your managed credentials, your managed passwords, into the tree, any tree structure that you define, as many levels as you want it to be. That looks like in the management console, you go into the agents. You have all the agents there, and there's the leaf listed right here. When you look at the details for an agent, on the top right corner here is a leaf section. You can set this to be anything you want. The dots separate the levels on the tree. And if you want to make a new one, you just make a new one. So let's put, say, this one, I don't know, this one, in the leaf test server. We update that leaf, and then this is live. If we go back here and we refresh this, we see now we have a test server section in that tree at the top because there are no dots. All the credentials that you put the leaf of test server will show up here. So if you want to add an agent to that, let's put, I don't know, those are already somewhere else. Let's put this one. Test server. Update the leaf on it. If we go back to the tech client, we click refresh, we now see that that agent is also in the test server. So when you type, you'll search in those. It's a good way to break down the categorization of where all these agents are. If you use TechIDManager to make unique accounts on individual Windows machines at different sites or different clients, and you want to organize those into a tree, we have that structure here to help you organize in any way that you want. And there's always, all at the top has everything. Any higher level trees like Ruffian shows everything in any of the leaves below it. So if you had an organization, a client such as, you want to know all your development clients, these are all the development clients. You know specifically which machines on the Tacoma client, you can see them here. All right. This is the first iteration of trees and leaves inside TechIDManager. In the future, I'll give you a little preview here because I love teasing things. In the future, when we integrate with specific RMMs, we hope to pull the tree structure and organization from the RMM and the agents there directly in and just mirror what's in the RMM so that you can have matching trees and find things and get live updates. That's what that is. There's a tree and it has leaves, and that's that feature. I think it's super useful. I remember when I worked at MSP, things being organized like that was very helpful. If there are any ever questions about anything I'm talking about, throw it in the doobly-doos, the chat down below. My minion in the background will read it out to us if she deems your question worthy. So the next feature is TOTP in the user password vault. I know user password vault is used by some clients, not all. A lot of people have existing password vaults they already had in place. We are expanding the features inside TechIDManager, like I said at the beginning, to also do secrets management. Right now we do privileged account management. We're also going to do secrets management. The user password vault was the first step toward that. So in the user password vault, we have all the passwords, and there is a test one somewhere here. This one, which also has TOTP. Any of the accounts that you put inside the user password vault, you can set the username for, the password you can send, copy of the username password. If I copy the TOTP, It copied that value and tells me it's valid for the next 28 seconds. So when I go to add or change a password, the dialog for changing the password comes up now, and you can capture the MFA QR code. Any QR code showing on your computer screen, you click this, it will find that QR code on your screen, read it, put it in the MFA 𝗁𝗐𝗍 secret section, and save it, and that's really all you need to do. Then from then on, you can use TechIDManager to generate that TOTP. If you change it, you can just click that again. It'll find whatever the other QR codes that you have on the screen that are MFA QR codes. This is the first step toward a more full, to again tease toward a future release. This is really the first step toward a shared password vault where you'll have vaults that you can share with specific people. And we will do, like CMSP requires, we're going to do all of that with zero visibility storage so that both the transition and the storage of all that information will be zero visibility. Though we will be storing credentials and you'll be able to share them with other people in your environment, we won't be able to see them. This will be a significant technological difference from any other password vault on the market. It will also work self-hosted or not self-hosted like everything else in TechIDManager. So real small, TOTP, the ones that's available, shows it for you there. Oh, I like this feature. This feature has been often asked for many times in both demos and existing clients. And just because I can't help throw it back out there, the auditing that you have to do every year for CMMC or any of the SOC, any of the security stuff, they require audits. You have to have proof. A lot of that proof is reports. So we have added in the management console a scheduled reports section. Any of the reports we have, you can go in, you can create that report, and it can be sent via email to a list or multiple list of people on a regular basis. So, like here, if you want the activity log scheduled report to be sent to this email address every week, starting at that time, that's what this line specifies. You just create a new scheduled report. You choose which report you want, give it a description, what format. We have formats that are HTML, CSV, and JSON. So to really help you, like whatever format you want to get it in and process it. The UTC based starting time, the repeating value, how many units of time of whatever time you want to skip between email and report, and whether you want it daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly, and what email address you want it to go to. This is the first iteration of the emailed scheduled reports. You get the report as it comes by default when you look at it in the management console. So when you look at the activity log, all the default options is what you'll get the report as. What we have probably coming for next month is setting up some of these parameters for that report. So schedule email reports, they're there. We also have a REST API interface that you can set up and access for your tenant in TechIDManager. This is under client options and API access. You set up both an API key and an source IP address so that you are getting both something that you are and something that you have, multi-factor for your API access, which everybody loves to use MFA or multi-factor. So we're even doing that for REST APIs because it really is a good security consideration. So you tell what source IP, what the key is, and then you have access to the complete REST API that does everything the management console does. From adding, enabling text, setting up agents, setting leafs and things, setting rights, creating rights, making triplets, seeing all those things, all of those, even running reports, is all available from that API access. At this time, we have near zero documentation on the API, but because of that, and because we really want to make this as useful to people as it can be, we are offering to, for free, meet with you, write you example code that shows you how to use the REST API to do whatever it is that you want to do. And then we're going to provide those example code API usages for all of our clients. So this is If you have an idea like, oh, I want to enable technicians or disable technicians when they go on vacation, and you have some other interface that you can determine when they're on vacation, we can write you an example program that will take that information and disable the appropriate techs inside TechIDManager. Then you'll make an API key, you'll give it to the example code, give it which technician you want to disable for when. That kind of tie-in is what we're talking about. We can, and then once we've met with some clients who have requests for API integrations, we'll do them, we'll release source code for it, and then anyone who wants to be able to take that source code, your API key coming from the target source or from the source IP address, be able to do those things in a more automated manner that the API you have to do manually. There are, to again tease you and elicit some of the things that are coming in the future, that type of technician enabling, disabling based on existence in on-prem AD or Azure AD is something that we are going to write a plugin for and give away with TechIDManager. So you'll be able to set up this plugin that we're going to write, give it a key and IP address that's running on, and it will take what's in AD, enable and disable technicians based on that, or it will run in Azure and do the same thing. So anytime you add a technician, it'll be automatically added. If you disable a technician because you fire somebody, that information will automatically transition into TechIDManager and disable that technician in TechIDManager, and that will automatically transition out to all of your clients and disable their accounts everywhere. That will save you from having to come into here and click this one button. It's a lot of work to save clicking one button, but because I worked on MSP and I realized that some MSPs have upward of 50 software platforms where technicians have accounts, that's a lot of benefit to MSPs, and especially MSP owners and managers. That's what's coming. The API is there now for, you just generate an API, give it some source IP address, and good to go. You'll have access to the API. And we'd love to, again, sales at TechIDManager or support at TechIDManager, and set up a meeting to discuss things you want integrated, and we'll help you do that. All right. Alternative UPN suffixes. There we have some clients who have, and I'm sure you're aware of this type of thing, where you have a legacy on-prem domain controller that was set up with one domain name, say, I don't know, coffeecup.local. When their company is named Coffee Cup though, and they got their domain, it's coffeecup.com. That's what Azure set up, coffeecup.com. So you set the alternative UPN suffix in the on-prem domain controller to be coffeecup.com. The domain the actual domain controller controls is coffeecup.local. But you want your accounts made with coffeecup.com so that when you use AD Connect to sync them to Azure, they come up as coffeecup.com. You can, with the latest version of the domain service, version 7 is 4.073 and newer, you can specify the domain name. And this is the alternative UPN suffix used by the domain service to make and maintain the accounts. You can even change this after the fact. If you already have domain service deployed somewhere and it's using the wrong UPN suffix, you'd rather use some other alternate UPN suffix you've set up on that domain controller, you can run the line domain service.exe space domain space the other UPN suffix. And that next night, when TechIDManager rotates passwords and does the bulk of what it does, it will move those accounts, rename them to the proper new UPN suffix, make sure they're still in the right OU, make sure they all have the same rights. Then, in the next 15 minutes, when AD Connect syncs those into Azure, it will also rename the Azure accounts. It will keep all the rights there and keep all that history together, and everything will just change the names. This has been requested by several clients. We have it in there now. If you have any questions about it or want more information, support at Ruffian Software or support at techidmanager.com, and we can talk about it and help you get it set up. If you have any issues or questions with it, we're always here to help. It's really a pretty minor feature as far as like expansion of the documentation. It's 3 lines here on one web page. Internally, it was quite a bit of work, and we're actually kind of proud that we can use that alternate UPN suffix, and all of that account renaming and stuff all works. Even though it's so small, we are kind of excited. We think that's a really cool feature. So that is, those are all the new features that TechIDManager brought out in the last essentially month and a half. If you use them and have questions, support@techidmanager.com. We'll be happy to answer any of that stuff. What are we going to be talking about next time? What we talk about next time really depends on how much we get developed over the course of the next month. There are several features that we really think are important that we're going to try and get in. These are highly requested features. I hate to say what they are because they're big and they're on the edge of being capable of being done or not by next time. But tune in next time. Same PAM time, same PAM channel for seeing what they are. That is that's the whole update for this PAMcast. Like I've said, we're glad to have you here. We're super happy that you are partners with TechIDManager. Super happy if you have to talk to you about anything you have, any feature requests. We love feature requests. We love feedback. And that's about all I got for today. It seemed like I covered a lot, went kind of fast, and that's where we are. So, yeah. I'm excited about where we are, especially having looked last month at where we were and how far we've come, and then just this, like in this last 2 months, the number of features we've added and released, and the way the company is growing. I'm super excited, and I feel like a broken record. I'm super excited. So, thank you for being here. As always, we really appreciate you. Have a great day. Thanks.